So here we are coming into September. I have to say fall is by far and away my favorite season of the year. And when I put together this September TBR, with your help, by the way, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, I'm even more fired up. So before we get into it, you know what we have to do, don't you? We got to roll the intro. So before we get into the TBR, I have to quick acknowledge and correct a mistake from last week's video. You see, I forgot to thank the wonderful people who are patrons of BellTube. I've got their names right here on the title card. If it's something that you'd like to find out a little bit about, it's in the description below. It's less than $2 a month. It's a lot of fun. Okay, now let's talk about September TBR. And the first book up on the list is for our quarterly Quilluminati read. Yup, that's the book club that we started with myself, Mike, Dr. Philip Chase, and of course John over at Talking Story. And this quarter's book was selected by Mike, and it is Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger. Now, from what I understand, this is a coming-of-age tale that is set, I believe, in the late 1960s, and would you get it? Here in Minnesota. So this is going to be really an interesting read. It looks like it's pretty quick, so I think I'm going to be able to blow through it pretty quickly. We haven't yet scheduled when the Quilluminati show will be on in September, but it will be on Philip Chase's channel, Dr. Chase, The Best of Fantasy. You already know what it is. We're going to be up on that one. It's going to be a great time, and then what's going to happen is Philip is going to select the book that's going to be read and reviewed and discussed here on BellTube in December. So, all right, Ordinary Grace, William Kent Kruger, that is book one that we're going to get into right away in September. Let's move on. And speaking of Dr. Philip Chase, as you may or may not know, he is a main judge in the SPFBOX competition, which is the self-published fantasy blog-off competition. This year, they're actually calling it SPFBOX because of the Roman numeral X, meaning 10, and it's the 10th year of the competition. I had the honor of being selected as one of Philip's sub-judges, meaning that he gave me 6 books to read, and I had to pick from those 6 books which one I'm going to hand over to him to be part of the ultimate judging from Team Philip Chase. I'm getting kind of close, to finishing these up. I've got 3 more left, and there's a realistic chance that one of these I'm actually going to get to before September. The 2 SPFBOX books that I've got lined up that will be finished for sure by the end of September, if not right away, it's going to be, the first one is The Handwarmers of Immortality by Karen McCompostein. I don't know anything about this book. I'll throw a graphic here because I only have an e-copy. So that's one of them. And I also have a book called The Torn Veil by Timothy J.R. Raines. Again, I'll throw a graphic right here because I only have an e-copy. I suspect with what my reading plan is for the next week here at the end of August, I'm probably going to get to one of these, and then the other one will be part of the September TBR. I've had a really interesting time with this SPFBOX competition, and I'm going to talk about it after I get through all of my 6 books. There's been some pretty high highs, and honestly, there's been some pretty low lows. A lot of it has kind of been a little bit in the middle for me, but I really don't want to make any judgment until I've given all 6 books a real fair shake and figure out which one I think Dr. Chase will believe is really the best contender to move on through the competition. So those 2 books will both be read. Let's move on to the next book. Now, the next book you guys determined for me. You see, if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, every month we do a community poll. It's completely free to all subscribers, where I throw up a few books that I'd be cool with reading, and you guys always get a 4th, open slot to throw in a suggestion of your choice, and whatever ends up with the most amount of votes is what I read. So you have a direct hand in this. Now, you guys basically are telling me I have to start a new series. Why are you doing this to me? I've been saying I don't want to start a brand new whole series right now. But, as the community wants, so shall BellTube man himself over here, Brian, do. And as of filming this morning, with 65% of the vote, You guys have selected book 1 of the Long Price Quartet, A Shadow in Summer by author Daniel Abraham. Again, I don't have the physical copy. I will throw up a title card right here. You'll be able to see what it is. All right, I know some of you Long Price Quartet fans are such giant enamored fan bases of this series. I'll start it. I don't know when I'm going to get to book 2. I mean, anything's possible, right? It's Belltube. I may just blow through all 4 books and there you go. But I got to go with what the community voted for. A Shadow in Summer. You guys voted for it. If you want to vote in the poll next month, it's super simple. All you got to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and boom, you are part of the poll. I'd love to see you there. Now, moving on to book 4 of September. This one's going to be a light read. This one's going to be just kind of easy living, you know, kind of getting into the fall, relax the mind, read something that's just not real dense. Who am I kidding? It's going to be Memories of Ice, book 3 in the Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. You all, I have to say, I am so glad you guys voted in Gardens of the Moon earlier this year, as again, we're talking about that community poll. I started Malazan because of you guys, and now you have hooked me into this series. I just finished Deadhouse Gates, by the way, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts on it when we do the August recap. But you can already tell, if I'm going to be doing Memories of Ice in September, you know I didn't hate Deadhouse Gates, right? Memories of Ice, I hear, is fantastic. I don't know any reason why I wouldn't fall in love with it. From what I understand, it brings us back to the main cast that we get in Gardens of the Moon. But in regular Steven Erikson form, I'm sure we're going to get plenty of new characters. I am completely fired up for this book. So much so that I'm only showing you a e-copy right here because I have ordered the Broken Bindings edition of Gardens of the Moon, Deadhouse Gates, and of Memories of Ice, and of Memories of Ice? I can't talk this morning. And Memories of Ice. I don't know when they're coming, but my guess is not before the middle of this month. So I'll probably end up reading it on Kindle. And then when the real Broken Binding edition comes, I'll do an unboxing for you guys and we can take a look at it together. All right, let's move on to the next book. Now, when we did a live Ask Me Anything last night, somebody had asked, do you have any day one authors that no matter what they put out, you read day one? And I answered very quickly. And then I went back and looked at my answer and I said, oh my God, I missed one of their books. Eric Ugland. Let's take a quick swerve into LitRPG for a minute. Eric Ugland's Good Guys and Bad Guys series both had books come out over the last 2 months. The first one that I'm going to be starting with, and I'm going to do this on audio, is The Bad Guys, book 11, and this is called Two Lies, Two Thrones. I love the Bad Guys series so much. The author I love his sense of humor. I love his plotting of these stories. I love the characters that he puts together. But for me, the main attraction of both the Good Guys and the Bad Guys is the audio narrator, Neil Helligers. I'm going to die on the Neil Helligers hill until more of you start getting on this bandwagon, especially some of you LitRPG people that like audiobooks. He is just spectacular. Two Lies, Two Thrones. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Two Lies, Two Thrones in the Bad Guys series. That's going to be coming up for sure. That is book 11, by the way, in Bad Guys. And don't get intimidated by that. These are really short books. And I know sometimes when we're looking at audiobooks, sometimes we want to try to get the most value for our credits spent if you're using credits. I have to be straight with you guys. They're only usually 8 to 10 hour books in this series. And yeah, I get it. For 1 credit, you could get a 40-hour Wandering In book. So, you know, whatever you do is completely cool with me. I just love the performance of Neil Helligers. So sticking with the Eric Ugland train, we are in The Good Guys now. And this is book 15. And the titles are similar because the two main characters of these books, and I want to say that The Good Guys is written in first person and The Bad Guys is written in third person, or the other way around. I'll listen to it when I get done filming, and I will put up a graphic if I was right or I was wrong, and we'll all know together. And this one is called Bad to the Throne. Now, if you know Classic Rocketall, it seems like that's a parody on George Thorogood's Bad to the Bone. That would be right up Eric Ugland's alley. I'm very excited for it, particularly because these are probably going to be my 2 focused audiobooks for the month of September. If there's time, I'm going to get into Primal Hunter #2. That was the plan coming into September until I realized Eric Ugland's got books out, read by Neil Helligers, right to the top of the line. That sound effect that I just did was almost Minton-esque. Check out Talking Story if you don't know what I'm talking about there. All right, and speaking of Talking Story, got to send a shout out to my brother from the South because he sent me some book mail. If I do a book haul, by the way, for October, it's a maybe because there really hasn't been that much for book mail, and I don't want to make a video just for the sake of making a video to show you a couple of books. So some of the stuff that I did pick up in August might well end up in the September book haul, but he sent me The Tomb by F. Paul Wilson, which is urban fantasy. It is book 1 in the Repairman Jack series. This sounds super cool to me. We did a video together a couple of weeks ago back on Talking Story. If you've not seen it yet, definitely go check it out. I sent him Sandman Slim. He sent me Patient Zero, which is book 1 in the Joe Ledger series by Jonathan Mayberry. We loved each other's books so much. We're going to do this more often for sure. I sent him Kill the Dead, which is the second book in the Sandman Slim series, and he sent me this one, The Tomb, and I am excited to read it if there's time. Really hard to know when you've got Malazan thrown in there, and from what I understand, Memories of Ice is considerably longer than Dead House Gates, which was longer than Gardens of the Moon. But when I'm fired up to read a series, you guys, I blast through them. So we'll see how that goes. And speaking about blasting through stuff, it's going to get me to the one for the road today. By the way, that's like 7 or 8 books for the month of September. I think it's pretty ambitious, but I believe it's doable. But I want to talk one for the road today about procrastination and blasting through things and procrastinating. Now, procrastination, I know it's not going to be your favorite topic, so we're going to kind of keep this one quick. But it's not always a bad thing, right? Sometimes we're not in the right mindset state to get the best out of ourselves on any particular day or, on any particular mood that we might be in. And we may be better off sliding something back, right? Procrastinate seems like such a negative word, but we might be better off rescheduling something so we can be kind of at the peak of our performance when we try to accomplish that task. Now, that said, if it's not something that requires a lot of creativity, requires a lot of thought, that if you just put your head down to get it done, you could do it, then I would do it right away. And here's my reasoning. When I was in the nightclub business, the only thing that I could count on was that something at the very last minute was going to go haywire or was going to go unexpected or go south or go wrong or however you want to call it. I could absolutely depend on the fact that something was going to go awry. And what I tried to do was get all the things done that I knew were lurking out there, that I knew I had to accomplish to free up the time and the mental space and the creativity to deal with the emergency situations as they arrive. And I promise you, you already know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Those situations are going to arise in your life, and you will feel way better having some freed up creative space in your mind, having some creative time, or just any time at all to handle those emergency kinds of situations, even if they're not dire emergencies, just the little things that come up that you've got the space for now because you took care of the stuff you knew you needed to do as soon as you possibly could. I'm very excited to know what you guys are going to be reading in the month of September. For sure, leave a comment. I hang out in the comments constantly. I answer all of them directly. This channel would have to be 100 times bigger than it is, maybe even not then, would I not personally answer comments. It's just a complete blast for me to find out what the BellTube community is reading. And also, on a selfish note, I get so many amazing suggestions from you guys. So don't think that this is just a one-way street here. Yeah, I love giving you guys book reviews and book suggestions, and book recommendations. But I love it equally much when you do it back in the comments because that's how some of these TBRs get formed. If you've seen some of my TBRs, some of them came directly out of the comment section. Let's try to do that again this month. You guys, this has been a blast. Stay positive. You know how we roll around here at BellTube. And of course, here's your fortune.